911, what is the address of the emergency?
He's walking south on Billy Street. He has a mask on. He looks good to you. He might be a good person or a bad person.
Yeah.
Do a favor, stop right there. Hey, stop right there.
If he hadn't worn that mask, I think he could have lived, yeah.
I'm going home. Relax, or I'm going to have to change this situation.
Is it a crime to run down the street wearing a ski mask?
Again, it's suspicious circumstances.
Is it a crime?
It is suspicious circumstances.
So I want everybody to pay for this because it's the great cover-up of Colorado right now.
They got away with murder! Y'all hear me? They got away with murder!
It's like breaks my heart.
He knew he was gonna die. He knew he was gonna die.
My name's Elijah McClain.
I could hear it in his voice.
I'm just different. That's all. That's all I was doing.
This is a Fox 31 News special. The Problem Solvers investigate what happened to Elijah McClain.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Jeremy Hubbard, joined by Problem Solvers investigative reporter Lori Jane Gliha. Back in August 2019, long before COVID-19, a 23-year-old named Elijah McClain was walking home from the store at night right here wearing a mask.
And that mask and the way Elijah appeared to be walking, moving his arms a little bit, was enough to set in motion the events that would lead to his death and eventually massive protests here and around the country. I've been investigating the case of Elijah McClain since he died. It involves police, paramedics, and the drug ketamine. Here's the story of what happened to Elijah McClain.
The light in the room, he's the one. His spirit would brighten you up. When you're feeling down, he just come around and you feel better.
He had so much energy. He was always running around the neighborhood. He wanted to be free.
At 23 years old, Elijah McClain had already touched so many with his peaceful demeanor and quirky personality. His little sister Naomi called him a jumping ball of energy.
Always uplifting you, giving you gratitude, respect all the time. His motto was always with gratitude.
Hey, looking good, ain't
His massage therapist fingers also worked magic on many instruments that he taught himself. Sometimes he'd serenade animals at the local pet store.
He liked to go there and play the violin and the guitar for the pets there because he thought they'd be lonely.
Elijah was the kind of joyful guy who could be a friend to anyone, which is why the way he died
You can't imagine Elijah not there anymore.
is so difficult to understand.
Okay.
Stop, dude. Well, chill out. You've already been told several times to stop.
I can't fix myself. Ow.
The last words Elijah McClain ever spoke happened as he was pinned beneath a police officer a few blocks from his home.
Well, stop fighting us.
A few minutes earlier,
I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
3 officers confronted him as he was walking home from the store carrying a bag of canned fruit drinks.
Turn around. Turn around. Turn around. Stop tensing up, dude. Stop tensing up, bro. Stop tensing up. Stop tensing up. Stop tensing up.
No, let go of me. No, I am an introvert. Please respect the boundaries that I am speaking.
Stop tensing up.
Stop.
Relax.
Stop. I'm going home.
Relax, or I'm going to have to change this situation.
The officers were responding to a teenaged boy's 911 call.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
The caller said he wasn't in danger.
Were any weapons involved or mentioned?
No.
But he called 911 because Elijah was wearing a mask and putting his hands in the air as he headed into a gas station convenience store.
He looks good to you. He might be a good person or a bad person.
Yeah.
The Fox 31 Problem Solvers were the first to obtain the store surveillance video.
He was happy. He greeted everybody. He bought his tea and he was on his way.
Mariah Gentry was the clerk behind the cash register and says Elijah was a familiar face.
I wasn't nervous because I knew who he was. And when he came in, he wasn't threatening. You know, most people that come in with ski masks are going to be threatening. He was not threatening at all. He was telling everybody hello. He asked everybody how their day was, and he said goodbye.
In fact, he did a little bow to the man behind him in line as he left. something his sister Naomi says was part of his peaceful nature.
It's his gratitude bow. He does that all the time. When he's talking to somebody, he'll be like, with gratitude, and then he'll bow to them.
So how did this massage therapist, just walking home, end up in a confrontation with 3 officers?
You guys started to arrest me, and I was stopping my music to listen. Now let go of me.
Get over the, let's get over the grass. We're gonna lay you down, okay? Come on.
It's not gonna be an arrest. I intend to take my power back.
We took our questions directly to then Chief Nick Metz, who at the time hadn't released the body camera footage or many details to the public.
Why did this end in a struggle? If there was no actual crime being committed, no weapon.
The officers had reasonable suspicion at that time to direct that person to stop. The person didn't comply with those directives.
Is it a crime to run down the street wearing a ski mask?
Again, it's suspicious circumstances.
Is it a crime?
It is suspicious circumstances, and I do believe the officers had reasonable suspicion to make that stop.
He knew he was gonna die. He knew he was gonna die. I could hear it in his voice. I could hear it and see it in his body language. He didn't think they were gonna let him live.
Shanine McClain is Elijah's mother. She watched and listened to her son's final conscious moments unfold on body camera footage months before police publicly released it.
I want everybody to pay for this because it's the great cover-up of Colorado right now.
The officers twice attempted a carotid control hold, blocking blood flow to Elijah's brain after they said Elijah tried to grab someone's gun during the scuffle.
Just grab your gun, dude.
None of that can be seen on video since all 3 officers' body-worn cameras fell off during the fight. After about 15 minutes of being pinned, struggling, vomiting, and shouting in pain, Elijah eventually stopped moving.
Just drive it right behind his ear if he fights, all right?
Paramedics sedated him with an injection of ketamine, and moments later, his heart stopped.
For them to be injecting my son with that in a dosage that was obviously too much, it kind of puts fear in my heart for the rest of the world. Like, if this is used to control people or to put fear in others, how are we ever going to get justice for the things that they do wrong?
Ahead.
Have you used ketamine in the past? No.
The Fox 31 problem solvers obtained the recorded internal interviews with the medics.
Drive it right behind his ear if he fights, all right?
First responders lifted a limp Elijah McClain onto a gurney after sedating him with an injection of the drug ketamine. But before they could transport him to the hospital or even shut the ambulance doors, he went into cardiac arrest and never recovered.
Why Elijah, you know? He's a good person. He was a good person.
Naomi McClain is Elijah's little sister.
We did everything together. It's like, you can't imagine Elijah not there anymore.
I'm ready for justice, to be honest with you. I've already dealt with the fact that they killed my son.
A coroner who conducted Elijah's autopsy ruled the cause of his death was undetermined, with intense physical exertion and a narrow left coronary artery as contributing factors. The report also said a doctor could not determine whether the carotid hold officers used to restrain Elijah and the dose of ketamine he received also played a role.
It's a very widely used medication. It's got a very good safety profile associated with it.
Aurora's medical director, who oversees the city's ketamine protocol, Dr. Eric Hill, says it's an important tool for paramedics to protect both the patient and the first responders, even when the patient is already physically restrained.
If they're handcuffed and have to be physically held down, that actually increases the struggle, and increasing the struggle actually leads to increased mortality for the patient.
But the drug has come into question in recent months. It's not FDA approved for use on agitated patients and requires a waiver from the state health department. The American Society of Anesthesiologists says ketamine cannot be used safely if patients are given too much without proper monitoring.
When we first learned of these uses of this drug, and we learned of the size of the doses being used, to anesthesiologists, that would be concerning. That is not something that we would use in clinical medicine. And we do know that, that ketamine can depress respiration and cause other health problems.
Whose decision was it to use ketamine? It was mine.
In February, the Fox 31 problem solvers exclusively obtained these internal videos with the emergency responders who decided to use ketamine on McClain.
You got 500 of ketamine?
Yep. Fire Lieutenant Pete Chikuniak says he made the call to use the drug because he felt McClain exhibited signs of the agitated state called excited delirium.
It's a medical condition that this person has no control over their body at all. They're not in the right state of mind.
Our investigation found state guidelines for the drug say many physicians question the existence of an excited delirium syndrome, and that the use of this drug for this purpose does not have a large body of evidence-based support in the literature. State guidelines also advise emergency medical providers not to restrain people for law enforcement purposes.
Have you used ketamine in the past? No, because it's new to our system.
Aurora's protocol says the drug should be given based on someone's weight, 5 milligrams per kilogram.
I'm going to hit him in the right shoulder.
Fire medic Jeremy Cooper and Lieutenant Chikuniak decided to inject McClain with a 500 milligram dose, enough for a 220-pound person according to protocol, when McClain actually weighed right around 140.
My guess estimate, due to the darkness, struggling so much, what he was wearing, and not staying still, I estimated just roughly around 85 kilograms.
Okay, so 85 kilograms equals what, 190 pounds, give or take?
Right around.
If you don't know an exact weight, you can kind of go off of generalized dosing of 300, 400, or 500, depending on the size of the patient. 500 being large adult.
And with a 5cc syringe, we cannot measure. There's no increments on there to measure exactly. So I went up to the 500 because of his agitated state and his signs and symptoms of excited delirium.
But our investigation uncovered this ambulance document buried in the 521-page Aurora police report. It shows a medic involved in preparing the drug, who worked for the ambulance company and not the fire department, felt McClain received too much ketamine and that the dose should have been closer to 350 milligrams.
He was already unconscious before they injected him. He was already unconscious. But they still gave it to him.
The state health department, which grants the waivers that give agencies access to ketamine for agitated patients, told the Fox 31 problem solvers in June that it reviewed the case and there were no findings that would support an action against the provider certificate. But less than a week after we first reported that, several new complaints about the incident prompted the health department to reopen the case.
I was like, hey, he's going for your gun. I immediately grabbed the individual by his head like this with both hands and pulled him down to the ground so that he was bent over.
Coming up, the police officers who confronted McClain tell their side of the story. People all over Colorado are now saying Elijah McClain's name and marching for justice.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
The death of another black man in Minnesota, George Floyd, increased awareness about Elijah's case in the summer of 2020.
They got away with murder! Y'all hear me? They got away with murder!
But for Elijah's mother, Shanine, left with the final images of her son's terrified face stained in her memory, the swell of community support should have come sooner.
Can I tell you how much it hurt me to see y'all rally for somebody in another state, but not for my son last August? Can I tell y'all that? I'm appreciative that you guys are out here now. Maybe you guys were a little too busy in August last year.
Shanine and Elijah's father, LaWayne, are now suing the city of Aurora and the individual medics and police officers who were there the night Elijah moaned his final words.
Something's wrong with the whole system, period. So, fired everybody, fired. Get out of here.
Nobody cared because of, for whatever reason, whether it was a order from a higher up, his skin color, or just watching it because they may have been all rookies.
Our investigation found the 3 officers who initially approached Elijah were not rookies. Records show Aurora police hired Jason Rosenblatt in 2017, Nathan Woodyard in 2016, and Randy Rodema in 2014.
I was with Officer Rosenblatt. We were riding 2 officers that night.
Stop. Let me go. No, let go of me.
In February, the Fox 31 problem solvers exclusively obtained these internal interviews with all 3 officers, explaining to investigators why the altercation with Elijah became so rough.
Hey, stop right there.
Nathan Woodyard was the first to approach Elijah and told investigators he felt safe as the other officers were also arriving to assist.
Didn't have any weapons or anything I could see in his hand.
He kept stating, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert.
No, I am an introvert.
I'm not a normal person.
Sir, can you please cooperate?
And then I tried to explain to him just to cooperate, to relax his arms because he hadn't clenched like this.
Relax or I'm going to have to change this situation.
Within 20 seconds, all 3 officers were physically surrounding or touching Elijah, who said he had been listening to music.
And I was stopping my music to listen.
So I held his hands to his chest while trying to talk to him. Officer Rosenblatt grabbed his right arm and I had his left.
But I was trying to be calm with them to kind of calm him down. Because some people do tense up when you first grab them, you know, and we're taught that. So, hey, dude, it's not a big deal. You know, just talk to us. We're here for a reason.
Let's get over to the grass.
Officer Jason Rosenblatt told investigators he wanted to move Elijah to a grassy area so it would be softer if they took him to the ground. And that's when things escalated.
Grab your gun, dude.
I hear somebody say, he's reaching for your gun. And in my mind, that really escalated things because the way we're taught is someone's going to be doing things like that, they have nothing to lose.
I immediately grabbed the individual by his head like this with both hands and pulled him down to the ground so that he was bent over. He fell to the ground. He was still fighting us.
I moved my right hand in, put it against my bicep like this, took my other hand and put it against my head with my palm facing me and began to apply pressure to the sides of his neck.
Were you nervous?
Yeah.
Were you scared?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So was there fear within you?
Yes, there was.
Besides fighting with you, did he say anything that you can recall?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay.
My name's Elijah McClain. What's up?
Ladies, karate.
That's what I was doing. I was just going home. I'm an introvert and I'm different.
It was like they were in another mindset, like they heard nothing he said, like he wasn't even speaking English.
Each officer spent 7 days on paid administrative leave after the altercation, but none received discipline for the incident.
Aurora killed him. There's no 2 ways about it.
Civil rights attorney Mari Newman represents McClain's family and says she is now searching for accountability in court.
This is what Aurora does time and time again. Engage in excessive force in a racist manner and then say it's done nothing wrong. And the only way that anybody ever gets justice is by filing their own civil rights lawsuits.
Ahead.
Time is up. Time is up. Time is up. Act now.
The celebrities getting involved in this case and what's next in the investigation.
Time is up. Time is up. Act now. Act now.
TV stars, musicians, film actors, and complete strangers are now pushing for action in Elijah McClain's case.
I'm calling to demand justice for Elijah McClain.
Some calling government officials directly.
You are a disgrace. You are shameful.
Disgusting to me.
And more than 5 million signing a Change.org petition demanding accountability after the district attorney found no criminal wrongdoing. New federal, state, and local investigations are now underway, and the police department, with a new chief, banned the carotid hold. But even with all this change, the love for Elijah will always remain.
He will never be forgotten.
I love him, and a lot of people do. Still, they're not going to settle for this.
The death of Elijah McClain, a huge story that has unfolded right here in our own backyard. And Lori Jane, you have been breaking new developments on this story from the very beginning.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to uncover, Jeremy. And if you'd like to follow what happens next in this case, you can find all of my investigations and reporting at kdvr.com and on our app.
Check it out. On behalf of Lori Jane and the Problem Solvers, I'm Jeremy Hubbard from Fox 31 News. Thanks for joining us.